Let's take a look at privacy and cybersecurity. In the 21st century, there are many things that may come to mind. Ask yourself, are we truly secured and protected in our cyber world? Here are brief explanations to help separate these two in your mind. Privacy, concealing and controlling what we share with others and other entities. Cybersecurity, the protection of devices, programs, data, and networks from cyber attacks. In a much larger perspective, how are our fellow Americans feeling about their privacy and cybersecurity? Would you predict that over 50% or under 50% view things positively or negatively? Statistics collected in 2019 by the Pew Research Center shows that a whopping 84% of Americans feel very little or no control over their data. Even 64% of Americans feel at least somewhat concerned. Most, if not all of us, know that our personal information is floating around in cyber world. This information may be good, bad, or simply factual. At any rate, 74% of Americans feel it is more important for people to have the ability to keep personal, potentially damaging info from being searchable. Interestingly, 23% feel we should be able to discover potentially useful information about others. Can we have it both ways? Here's the survey called Americans and Digital Knowledge that we took part in during the early weeks of this course. I circled some of the stats in the not sure column because these are areas that we can readily seek to understand and modify when using devices. The most shocking stat here, though, is the identification of a secure URL address. This is something that we can easily spot when surfing, yet 53% of Americans weren't sure. This is alarming. If you notice the topic on this slide, it is trying to compare education level to amount of digital knowledge. I wanted to include this slide for one purpose and one purpose only: to provoke your thoughts. Does education level really exempt you from ever being tracked or a victim of identity theft? I hope you know that that was purely a rhetorical question. Take a look at what you see. Fitbit, Google Nightingale, and DNA to find ancestors. I bet two of those ring a bell. I'm sure many of you wear Fitbit and are reminded of the Ancestry DNA commercials. The lesser known here is probably Google Nightingale. It was a covert project by Google reported on in 2019. In partnership with the healthcare provider Ascension, they were planning to build a search tool for medical professionals to use machine learning algorithms. The healthcare implications of this was that Google had covertly harvested tens of millions of medical record information from over 2,600 hospitals. Of course, Google claimed that they did not violate HIPAA, but the implications just can't be ignored. HIPAA will definitely need to update their terms and conditions.
Hi, my name is Jacob, and today I'm going to be introducing the part of the presentation about scams. So I'm just going to go over a few different types of scam. So the first one we're going to talk about is called the business email compromise, and that refers to a type of scam that targets mainly businesses that on the regular are performing wire transfer payments, and the FBI says that it's a sophisticated scam targeting businesses working with foreign suppliers and companies that regularly perform wire transfer payments. And so when they do the scam, basically they compromise a business account either through social engineering or through computer intrusion techniques or through just classic hacking, and then somehow trick the business into conducting fraudulent transfers of funds. So that's one that the general public doesn't really have to worry about as much as if you're working in a business that fits the MO. But one that's related to that is called the email account compromise. So it's basically the same thing, but it targets general public, and it could take the form of emails that are pretending to be financial or lending institutions, that could be pretending to be schools, and basically just compromising emails so that they can request payments to a fraudulent location. So it could be your boss asking you, someone pretending to be your boss asking you to buy gift cards from somewhere, or it could be an employee asking payroll to change their direct deposit location. The next one we're going to talk about is called scareware, and this is a type of malware that basically damages or disables computers, and with a focus on scaring the user into downloading something. So basically, maybe an official message will pop up that says, your computer is compromised, download this security software, and then you do that, and it gets worse and worse as you go. So it uses the fear of scams to scam you. The next one we're going to talk about is another kind of malware, and this one is similar to scareware, but it actually takes over your computer and encrypts your data, and then basically holds it for ransom, telling you if you don't pay, then you don't get your data back. And the last one we're going to talk about is called phishing, and this is kind of a classic scam, online scam, and basically just tries to get the user to click on a link or download a file or give up information by pretending to be someone other than who it is. So this is also often through email. It might be a friend saying, hey, click this link, or look at this picture, download this file. Or it could be a school or someone pretending to be your university saying, you need to go here or give us this information so that we can finalize your tuition or something along those lines. So those are the basic internet fraud scams that, at least through the FBI, that's the common schemes that they have kind of put all of the different scams that are out there under. So there's more, but these are the basic categories.
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa, and this week I will be presenting the topic of identity theft. The definition of identity theft includes one or more of three types of incidents: unauthorized use or attempted use of an existing account, unauthorized use or attempted use of personal information to open a new account, or misuse of personal information for a fraudulent purpose. Who is at risk for identity theft? Three main age groups stand out among victims of identity theft: the elderly, college students, and children. In children, identity theft victims as young as 5 months old have been reported. Because a child's identity is less likely to be monitored, children are more than 50 times more likely to be victims than adults. A 2014 report done by Javelin Strategy and Research shows college students as 3 times more likely to be a victim of fraud than other adults, given they're often applying for credit cards for the first time. It's also important to note that students are 4 times more likely than other consumers to have their identity stolen by someone they know. The most common types of identity theft are credit card fraud, employment or tax-related fraud, phone or utilities fraud, bank fraud, loan or lease fraud, and government documents or benefits fraud. One form of fraud that might not come to mind when you immediately think of identity fraud is actually medical fraud. Medical identity theft happens when someone uses your name, social security number, insurance plan number, or other personal information to get medical care, medication, access to your medical records, or coverage under your name from your insurance company or Medicare. Detecting medical identity theft. Signs of medical identity theft include a bill or medical services you didn't receive, a call from a debt collector about a medical debt you don't owe, medical collection notices on your credit report that you don't recognize, a notice from your health plan saying you reached your benefit limit, or a denial of insurance because your medical records show a condition you don't have. The top 5 states where identity theft complaints were made according to the Federal Trade Commission are Michigan coming in at number 1, Florida at number 2, California at number 3, Maryland at number 4, and Nevada at number 5. There are some things that you can do to protect yourself from identity theft. Secure hard copies. So make sure you have things like birth certificates, medical documents, maybe an extra license like maybe a concealed handgun license. Another thing is to choose strong passwords. And I know on most devices like the iPad, it can suggest the password for you and it can save it, and they're stronger passwords than I know technically I would create. Another thing is to be aware of suspicious emails and websites. Examine your financial statements on a regular basis. Protect your computer. Use two-factor identification and avoid public Wi-Fi if you can. So in places like airports or Starbucks, try and avoid that public Wi-Fi. 10 steps to take if you suspect you're a victim of identity theft. First, analyze your situation. Place a fraud alert with the National Credit Reporting Agency. Check your financial accounts. Check your computer for viruses. Secure your proof of identity. File a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. Make sure you file a police report. Keep a record of your actions. Order credit reports for review. And don't ignore the activity.